Let's get started. I'm going to introduce myself because a lot of people here haven't heard me speak before. I am an accountant and economist, as I said before. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I've mentored thousands of students over the years. I'm still a very active investor in my own right. I've educated a lot of people over the years, but my most important role is the last one there, which is as a wife and mother. And I can tell you what, that's the hardest role as well, I might add. I've been on stage with a lot of the big boys around the world. I do a lot of public speaking. I've been on stage with this guy here, Anthony Robbins. Now, most of you will have heard of Anthony Robbins. I was his first ever female keynote speaker anywhere in the world for his wealth program, which is called his Wealth Mastery, which I thought was a pretty big kudos for him to ask me to do that. Since then, obviously, he's had other females on the stage there in that regard, but I was his first ever female keynote speaker, which I thought was pretty cool. I've been on stage a number of times with these guys too, Robert and Kim Kiyosaki. Now, Robert Kiyosaki wrote the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. Who's read that book? Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Look, great book. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to read it. It's a great book and it's changed a lot of people right around the world. And it's about changing your mindset, changing the way you think about investing, whether it be shares, property, business, whatever. It's a whole shift of the way we have looked at wealth and money and future and all of those things. There's not a lot of content in it as to the how-to, but it's a really great book that has changed a lot of lives around the world and really started the path for a lot of people. So if you've got any kids, it's a great book to get them started on as well, to get them reading and starting to think about, wow, I can take control of my life and I can have the things that I want, but I'm going to have to do it a little bit differently. So it's a great book in that regard. Dr. Roos was Robert Kiyosaki's original property advisor back in the day, and I would consider Dolph my mate, and we've spent many hours on stage together. This guy here you might recognise. This is Richard Branson. Now, I hate that photograph. I've been on stage with him as well, but that photograph was taken at the end of 3 very long days, and we both look like it. So this one is much better. This is myself and Trumpy together. Now, I look at that photo, and I love this photo, but I look at that and I go, now, did he wear that tie to match my jacket, or was it the other way around? Either way, I'm taking it. I've written a number of textbooks as well, and manuals and learning books and things like that. Here's a selection of some of them. I've been featured in a number of other people's books in varying degrees. This is one of them here, which is the Secrets of Property Millionaires Exposed. This is a book that I wrote, which is a journal book, and I think it's very important. In fact, I think it's so important that I give it to all of my students. Because what this book does, it's called The Peg in the Sand. And The Peg in the Sand is a journal book which steps you through systematically a process so you can work out what you want. Now that might seem really silly, because you go, I know what I want. But when you're pressed and I say, okay, well tell me what you want, the answer that I normally get is I want to be financially free. I think that is the waffliest nothing answer you can possibly give me. Because what on earth is financially free? If that's your only goal, you've got no specifics. You don't know what you've got to do to take you closer or further away from whatever that is. I mean, you've got to think about what that means to you. Like how much money do you need, in your opinion, to be financially free coming in every week without you having to work for it? You've got to think about what that means from an asset perspective. What does it mean on your balance sheet? What does your balance sheet actually even look like? And when you can nail it down and you can go, okay, well, I need to be in this position for me to feel financially free, then you've got a specific number. Now you can start to make decisions that take you closer or further away from that. And this journal book is actually a book that steps people through that thinking process to get to that point. Because until you know what you want, you don't know what to buy, you don't know what to sell, you don't know what you should be investing in. All the other decisions are irrelevant. You're just, bobbing around like a pawn on somebody else's chessboard. You've got to take control of that stuff. You're going to get it very strongly today. I'm very much about control. Control of your own money, control of your own future, control of your own decisions. I don't believe in passing money off to somebody else to look after. I think that's fundamentally wrong. Because there isn't a lawyer, an accountant, a financial advisor, anybody in the world that is going to be thinking about your financial future as much as you are.
What about my budget?
What about my budget? Look, there's a lot of tools along the way that can assist you in varying degrees. But the great thing about it is to take that control back to yourself and really work through what you want and where you want to go. And that's what this book actually does. This is the first book that I wrote. This is called Protect Your Ass. Now, I love this book. I loved the cover. The photo shoot was so much fun. We had this naked guy running away from the camera all day long. But all the editors and everybody else hated it. So it only ever lasted one print run, and I had to rebadge it under another cover, and I'll show you that shortly. But it's about protecting your assets and not letting anybody else being able to attack that asset base that you've actually built up. This is my foundation book. This is my story, Confessions of a Real Estate Millionaire. Now, Confessions of a Real Estate Millionaire is how I went from virtually zero to $3.5 million portfolio, and of that I was worth about 1.55 in the space of 18 months. Now, I was a single mum with 2 kids at the time, and this story shows how I did that. But it's not a, wow, everything was wonderful story. It's not. You know, you are going to get obstacles on this road. So I tell the warts and all story. And every second chapter is my story, but every second chapter is a learning from that. What you could have done, should have done, structures, tax, all of these other things that come into the decision-making process. You know, the benefit of hindsight, all of those things that make it so important to get the right decisions made. So it's a great book. It was very therapeutic for me to write it because there's some serious stuff that went down in that time. And I know it's a book that has helped a lot of people over the years as well. So that's the Confessions of a Real Estate Millionaire book. Asset Protection Secrets of a Real Estate Millionaire is the rebadging of the Protect Your Ass book. Tax Secrets of a Real Estate Millionaire, I bought this book out about 1.5 years ago, I suppose now. Now, this book sold out completely, the complete print run, sold out in 2 weeks. And I thought that was pretty incredible for a tax book, for God's sake. But it did. I had to go and get another print run done, etc. So I'll be giving away a lot of these books today as well. And then the last one there, I've got 101 10 top tips in real estate. And I've got 2 more books that'll be coming out this year as well. So I'm really invested personally in education and teaching people and learning and continuing to grow for the betterment of your financial position, because that's what keeps things rolling. When you stop learning, that's when you stop growing. You may as well be dead. You know, so that's why I continue to do what I do. Now, I actually sold the Confessions of a Real Estate Millionaire book. I did this promotion a few years ago on eBay, right? One book on eBay. And I sold it for $19,102. How do you sell a book, one book, for $19,102? Well, I tell you what, first of all, it went to charity. It went to charity, and we had a great day. And there's Rixon, who actually got the book, and she's actually even here today, which is pretty special. And it was, it's a great opportunity. Ozchild is the charity that I chose, which is an Australian charity that helps kids develop their talents and to be able to move forward in whatever field they choose, that they've got a talent in. So it's a great charity to be able to hand over a $19,000 cheque. I do a lot of podcasts as well. Who listens to my podcasts? Well, I tell you what, if you're not listening to my podcast, what you need to do is you need to get on iTunes and you need to subscribe to them. They're in the finance section, and I'm normally in the top about 3 to 10 in the finance section. I obviously took this picture, the screenshot here, when I was number 1. And I do a podcast on a semi-regular basis about anything, whatever I think is topical at the time, wherever I think people need to be knowing and understanding. They're free, and it's a great way just to keep your mind in the right spot. Keep yourself thinking constantly, a little bit focused, because we've got lots of distractions in the world. And if you allow those distractions to take over your life, then you lose focus on what's really important. And what's really important is you achieving what you want. knowing what you want and then getting out there and actually achieving it. I've been asked to do a number of national tours over the years. I get asked to comment on media and those sorts of things. And back in 2009 is a memorable one because at the time we were going through the GFC. Things were pretty tough. And nobody knew what was going to happen in Australia. I mean, we saw the carnage in America and all that kind of stuff. And we had an American economist come out at the time. And what he said was that the Sydney property market and the Australian property market in general was going to fall by 40%. Well, that put the wind up everybody, didn't it? And the media actually asked me what I thought about that. And I said, well, that's bullshit. And they said, well, put your money where your mouth is and tell us why you think that's the case. So I did. And I did this big national tour. I've done many of them, but this one here comes to mind. And I went through systematically and showed why his argument was flawed. Now, it was right for America, but the thing was that the assumptions that he was making about Australia were wrong. You know, we have very different fundamentals than what was going on in America, particularly at that time. And I said the exact opposite. What I said was, back then, was that Sydney was not going to fall by 40%. What was actually going to happen was that Sydney, particularly, was in for a Sydney tsunami. Now, I wasn't talking about water. I was talking about the property prices rising. Now, what do you think's happened since 2009? We've had a massive rise here in Sydney. And this afternoon, what I'm going to be talking about is, okay, that's happened, but what next? What are the drivers? What are the economic conditions that are in existence right now? And then what is that likely to mean for next year, this year? You know, what are we likely to see? Because knowing those kind of things or having an opinion on those kind of things gives you understanding about what perhaps you should be doing in the market. So that's my after lunch session that I'm going to be doing.